I know that on the first day, people trickle in at different times, and we like to kind of let this first day be a little bit loose and relaxed, and but also want to give you a chance to do some playing even before we meet each other. So let's just get into it. I went to yoga this morning, and one of the teachers, they said, you know, don't get too obsessed with how deep you go into the stretch, and think more about just being present in it. And so I thought that would be a nice way. A lot of times I'll kind of say, like, don't worry about how complex or how fast you're playing, just try to focus on how you can make it feel good, which I thought what she said in yoga today was kind of another way to language into that. So if that's useful for you, and also if it's useful for you to just like kind of think a little bit about your intention for this week. You know, how you want to feel while you're playing, what you want to get out of this experience, maybe things that you want to steer clear of, you know, and just how you can get the most of this and why you're here, and just kind of ground in on that. I know that for me, like, every day when I go to these yoga classes, they're always saying that, and sometimes I have a different answer, and sometimes they'll give, like, if you want to have my intention, you can, and so, but I don't know if I have one to give exactly today. I have a lot of them, so maybe just the one that I gave you will be enough. Just focus on being present, not trying to think about like where you want to be, but just like being happy with where you are and getting the most from that. That would be an idea. We're going to start with this loop. Sometimes my loops have different tuning things going on. This is roughly the A. You can always adjust your intonation. And I want to recommend that, you know, so you can stop and tune anytime you want and kind of match it up. It might be hard to tune your G string or your C string to this though. So if you have an A, maybe we'll just take that for now. And from that, I'd love to just start with a kind of what I think of as an infinite note. An infinite note is where we just draw the bow, and then we allow our bow to change. And we can pick any note from the key of A major. So if it helps you, you could visualize what are the notes in A major on my instrument. A, B, C sharp, F sharp, G sharp applies, right? And literally if you just pick any one of them, and then we can start on that, and we can just hold that note together. 2, ready, go. Now let your bow change. Breathe. Infinite note. You can bring your awareness to your breath. Notice things. You can notice your shoulders, your body, your torso, your feet on the ground. Bring it back to your breath. Notice the weight of your bow arm. You can allow your left hand finger to roll a little bit if it feels you want to see how it sounds a little sharper, a little flatter. Now let's change to another note to change. So we have A, B, C sharp, D, E. Change again to another note. You can always play the note A if you're not sure. The note A will work. Open E will work. Open D will work. You can explore moving your arm faster. Adding a little vibrato if you like that. And let's change again. Noticing your breath. Trying to find comfort, presence, feeling grounded wherever you are. Changing right here. Explore different speed of your bow, faster bow, slower bow, more pressure, less pressure. Breathe in. Let's change the note again. And change again. Notice your body while you're playing. Change again. Change again. Notice, are you using the whole bow? Change. Are you going from the tip to the frog? Change. It's okay if the bow skips. Change. Always adjust your finger, change, moving it lower or higher, change, the bow faster. Can you use more of it? Change. Change. Now we'll change every 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. Change. Entire bow. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Use the entire bow. All the way from the bottom to the top. All the way. It doesn't matter if it bounces. It really doesn't matter. All the way. Connect the stroke from the frog and the tip without making the note swell. Noticing your breath. Notice your shoulders. Body. Kind of scan your entire body. Look for where there might be stuck points. Just notice. nice, very nice. Let's try a little bit of more like rhythmic work with this now. And by the way, everything is a suggestion, so if you want to do something that, if you're like advanced and you want to do something different from at any time, or whether you're advanced or not, you want to do something different, you can do something different anytime, period. But just some rhythmic ideas. What if we just move like this? And notice that how it feels when we change from down to up, to down, to up, to down, to up. I'm playing the note A. The note A works great, but so does the note E, so does the note D, so does G sharp, F sharp, or C sharp. We can start with just trying to get that to feel really good. But if you want to do some different rhythms, you can. 2 and 3 and... Double that up, so something like this. So here's a nice exercise. We could go back to the halftime feel like this. But we could try to put it on the offbeat like this. So that's an option for you. Another option is to mix the durations. So for example, we have this duration, and we have this duration. So we can mix them. And obviously you could mix other durations if you like. So let's try that. Does that concept make sense? Mixing these durations of rhythms, and if you want, trying to play from the offbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and. a couple other things we can do with this. There's these exercises, classical exercises for violin called, I think they're called Shratic, by Shratic, although it's Russian, so I'm not pronouncing it very well. But basically what the exercise does is it practices going from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 4, 3 to 2, you know, so it's sort of something like, so it's kind of a way to practice just examining all the different moves that your left hand could make. But you don't need to use Shratic to do that, in my opinion. Like, you can do it, you know, however you want. But just to make sure we're grounded in that, before we even get to that, I want to make sure we're all comfortable playing in the key of A major. And so the easiest frame for this, I think, would be just these notes. Can everybody play those notes? So A, B, C sharp. Can you play that? Right. Now, can you play it down the octave on your instrument? Yeah, now can you play it up the octave on your instrument? Yeah, so that could be something we could start with. And then if you're advanced, can you play it as sixths? As seventh, as fourths, as thirds, and as octaves. And can you do that in 3 different octaves? So I would love to explore just that motif, because I think it also illustrates how no matter how advanced you are, you can always get challenged from something that is kind of, you know, a core thing, right? So if, you know, I was just working on that myself. You know, like, clearly I have work to do there. So let's just try that. That motif, A, B, C sharp. Your time. Nice. And now let's build on that to this. So you can take that motif and you play that in 3 octaves. You can play it with different fingerings, you can do it with different rhythms, and you can also mix your notes, you know. So 5 notes in the A major scale. Ready, go. example of this, if we just move between all the different moves there, like, and maybe any speed, right? Right? Just trying to really work on that. 2, 3. So now it shouldn't be too much of a stretch to add those remaining notes. It's just F sharp and G sharp. And if that's where you're at with it, that's a great exercise. Any variation of that is a great exercise, but what I like to do is actually build it into a pattern and then start on B, then start on C sharp, and a variation. And if that's easy for you, then you can do any of that as thirds, fourths, sixths, sevenths, octaves, and you can also improvise. Right? 2, 3. But there's a different key signature happening here. And the way I think about every major scale key, the 12 keys that we usually think of as a major scale, I always think of it as A, B, C, D, E, F, G when X, Y, Z is sharp or flat. I don't know if that's something you could remember because it might be helpful, so I'm going to say it again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G when X, Y, Z is sharp or flat. I just had a student just now, like about an hour ago, he texted me and he said, hey, I'm working on learning all the modes, you know, the 7 modes. And he said, you know, because then you have to remember like the different, because you know the major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Does everybody, have you ever heard that before? Maybe not everybody's heard that before, but that's how we remember the pattern. That's how some people remember. That's called a whole step, has 2 half steps. That's a whole step, half, whole, 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 half. That's how a lot of people remember the major scale. If you were classically trained, at least a lot of us learned that way. But we also remember it by ear by thinking, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And that's the major scale. But a lot of people will talk about learning all the modes, the 7 modes of the major scale. And if you do that, you still have the same 7 notes, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. But if you start here, that schema is completely changed. And my student wanted to know, should I remember that? Whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, and should I then do it for the other 6 modes? And I said, absolutely not. It's a complete waste of your time, in my opinion. Because why would you learn 7 things if you could learn 1 thing? Right? So a lot of people will talk about that, and I'm talking about jazz nerds. They'll say, like, you need to learn all 7 of your modes, and I think it's a complete waste of your time. That's my position on the matter, because why would you do that? But what I do think is useful is to know the Ionian mode, which is the major scale, and to know whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, because you can relate any of the modes to that. And even better yet, to remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G when X, Y, Z is sharp or flat. And if you're a reader, then you can look on the page and you can just literally see the key signature, and it'll tell you. So if you tell me 3 sharps, then which happens to be A major, then I know A major. But if you tell me 1 flat, if you tell me 3 flats, so that's how I think about it. It's always A, B, C, D, E, F, G across first position on my instrument, which whatever that is for you. And if you're teaching middle school, then that extended range might only be just the D and the A string in first position, but the same concept applies, right? And if you're playing on the cello and you don't want to go up to 7th position, you don't have to. But the idea is, can you work within that to understand the key? And I say all of that because this has no sharps, no flats. So you can either try to access it from this analytical schematic that I'm giving you, or if you don't know the names of the notes, if you don't know the names of the accidentals, if you don't know what sharp or what flat, where's the C, that's fine, then you can use your ears. But we still want to try to figure out a way to ground into what is this that we're dealing with. And so if I was using my ears, then I would proceed cautiously and carefully and slowly. And I'd be like, okay, just 1 string. Does that sound right? Does that sound right? Maybe not. That sounds right. What's next? Maybe not. That sounds right. That sounds right. Right? So it's totally fine if we use our ears, or if we use, reading, or if we use these theoretical frameworks. And by the way, if it helps you, I encourage you to always write it down. I will say that over and over again. But I know that some people will be like, well, I don't read. And that's cool too. But then we just deal with that, right? Like deal with a small range where you can be like, oh, what am I doing? And let me know if you're stuck with something. If you're like, well, where is C natural on my instrument? And I'll tell you. But this is the key of C major. And that means that we play A, B, C, D, E, F, G, where nothing is sharp and nothing is flat. And if I want to play over that, right? Eventually we want to just be able to develop the capacity to access those notes in that key signature, right? So same thing that we were doing before, you can play sequences at your tempo, right? Any kind of simple sequence like that is a great way to do it. It doesn't even have to be, it could just be this. Or even slower. Maybe we could try that. I'll do that with everybody. But if it's too easy for you and you're advanced, you could do it faster. You could do it 3 times or 4 times as fast. And you can also do it on one string so that you're practicing shifting. Or you could do it with thirds and fourths and sixths, or you could just completely disregard it. But I'm going to do that pattern. It's going to be like this. Let's see, wait, I'm going to be right there. Okay, I'm starting on G. Ready, go. A. Octave on B, C, you can go down the octave again if you want here, E, F, G. Let's go down from B. Octave twisting, C. Go up the octave again if you want, A or B. A. And as you're doing this, there's all kinds of ways that you can try to be more present, make it feel better. The intonation, the vibrato, the articulation, the tone, the rhythm. Right. This concept of a sequence, right? So if you want now, you can do your own sequence. You can do your own sequence. You can make up a 5-note sequence or a 3-note sequence. And the sequence can be steps, like this. These are steps. Or this. Those are steps, right? But you can also do leaps. A 3rd or a 4th or a 5th is a leap. Those 3 notes both have a leap of a 3rd. I could do 3/3. I could do a 4th and a 3rd. Or a 3rd and a 4th. You don't need to make the sequence too long or especially too complex. If I do a long sequence like this, it's not complex. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it really relates well to the major scale. So I like that one a lot. So just a suggestion that you work on a sequence in the key of C major, because I think that it could be useful for you. 2, ready, go. So this concept of sequence, of finding like a pattern as a way to practice and get to know that key signature better is really useful. You can adapt it in different ways, and we'll come back to it probably off and on. But then something different than that is to improvise within the scale, if to the degree that you know the scale. So if you know the C major scale between just this much, if you know it there, you can improvise within just those notes. Now, if you want an advanced application of this, then you can start to use chromatic neighbor tones against the 7 notes of the major scale. So, for example, those are all lower chromatic neighbor tones to C major, but you can also do so that's just for anybody that wants that. So consider trying to improvise either in like just half notes, maybe like this. We're improvising random notes from the C major scale according to half notes like this. You could do half notes, or you could do slower than that, whole notes, or you could do quarter notes. But just see if you can do that, but make every note feel good, you know? I mean, that's a challenge for me. Two, ready, go. C major. this pose or this posture or this form, I like to think of it as just a recurring notes of an equal duration, right? Recurring notes of a half note duration or a quarter note duration or a 30-second note duration. Doesn't matter. Something I like to do after that is something called melodic rhythms, which is just a rhythmic phrase. I want to try this one. Da, da. And then we're going to add a pause, and we're going to do it again. Da, da. And then we pause. Ba, ba. But the trick is, like, some people might think, oh, that's too easy for me. But how good can you make it feel? You know, so 2, 3, 4. 1. Can I change the articulation? You know, can I add a shift? There's all kinds of ways that you can challenge yourself to make it feel better or to be present within this process of improvising in the strict accordance of this melodic rhythm. So let's try that. Only notes from C major with that rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. The rhythm is this. Ba, 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 ba. Can you play it in time? That's dragging. I'll give you a secret here too. So anytime we change the bow, we're more likely to drag, which is why if you play it like this, it's going to be less likely to drag. Hook the bow or separate the bow. Otherwise, if you change the bow, then we have to work against the tendency for that to give friction and make us, because our body is wanting us to delay the thing. But the music dictates that we shouldn't delay it. Every orchestra teacher knows that this is the biggest problem, right? Is rhythm, isn't it? So if I'm gonna go, I have to really think about anticipating that change of the bow. Let's try that same melodic. I'm gonna give you some examples. Sorry. Right in time. I'm not even sure if I was right in time, but you get the idea. 1, 2, ready, go. New melodic rhythm. So this melodic rhythm sounds like this. And remember, with every melodic rhythm, you can always repeat the same note if you want. So this melodic rhythm sounds like this. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Ba, 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 This is the type of exercise that if you want to, like when you're practicing in the morning or when you get a practice break, if you want to record yourself with a metronome and just try something like this, like you'll learn a lot just by listening back to your recording and noticing like how much am I staying in time. Let's just end with a little bit of a rhythm exercise. So just down, up, just starting there. It can be any note in the key of C major or it can be changing. Really try to be together with every eighth note. practice seeing if you can put accents on different different subdivisions. So on the 1, on the 2, on the 3, the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll demonstrate briefly. So 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But keeping the bow moving. For one thing that I like to give people to practice is just doing kind of ghosting the string. And people they get caught up on how to mute the strings. You can let your fingers just fall lightly, but you can really ghost just like this too. It's fine, right? So it's really more about the accents. It doesn't matter what kind of noise you're making. We're just trying to practice being able to be cognizant of the subdivisions and make those accents. And then you can come up with little rhythms you want if you want. So like I might do. Bow moving the whole time. So just practice that for a little bit if you want to, and then we'll wrap up in just a couple minutes. 2, 3, and 4, and. Stick around for more live streams during Creative Strings Workshop. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.